Hello again, Ian Stokey with Mastermind Games, back from more Malifaux, and this time Onryo. Gonna try something similar to what I did with Lost Love in the last video, but Onryo are spirits who suffered some great injustice or injustices in their life, and come back from the grave to revenge themselves. No, I'm saying that in the most awkward way possible. Matt White. But they come back from the grave to seek vengeance upon those that wrong them, but can end up very confused by their transition from the world of the dead to the world of the living, and can easily mistake the foes of those who summon them for their own enemies. So I'm going to paint mostly in a series of lighting effects. We'll basically just be doing bits and pieces of both models on camera. They'll have a similar but not exact, or their color schemes will be similar but not exactly identical. I'm going to be, so again, something of a variant on what I did for Lost Love. And I could have primed in white, but I didn't have a clear idea how I was going to end up painting them until the last couple of days. And I'd want the base darker anyway. So I'm definitely trying for a ghostly look, which worked out reasonably well in the last video. I'm starting to ramble again, so let's just get a reasonably solid coat of white on here. It's a bit thick right there. I'm using just enough water to thin the paint, keep my brush moist. Shoot! But not overly wet, and it's just a little boogers. There's a little debris that got on there. Alright, that's good enough. Apply to the other one and move on. Well, all that took a while to dry. That's where we want to be now. So I'm going to go with Bloodless Skin 09150 and thin that out with 1 part water to 1 part paint. And go over the flesh portion of the creature here. Oddly enough, it doesn't have the undead keyword, but it is incorporeal. Now, I'm wondering if I should have gone one darker, but I think this works. Alright, apply to the other one. Soak some of that up near the neck here. Apply the other one, let that dry, and I can move on. Alright. True Silver 09207. And again, thinning with 1 part water to 1 part paint. Go over their fans here on both of them, because this will just take a second. And now I'm going to take Ashen Blue 09057. this is only going to go on the inner robe of this Onryo. I'll make sure I get that without hitting the flesh. Here, I'm actually going to take Chaotic Red. It's going to do something a little brighter, but change my mind at the last minute. This one's another pot that's about empty, and that's fine. Got replacements in the brand I prefer on hand, but much the same. Thin it out, 1 part water. Trying to avoid hitting the skin or equivalent thereof and just get the inner layer of cloth here. Soak up that bit that got on the chest there as best I can. And then pure black 09037. And usually I do a 2-to-1 ratio on this color, but I'm just going to go 1-to-1 here. It's going to go over the hair real careful, because I do not want to nick anything else with this color. Alright, apply that to the other one, let that dry completely, then I can move on. And the focus is still really fighting me hard, and now my system's acting up. Well, that's 2 videos where I can't seem to catch a break. Alright, next, Ghost White 09063, and I will thin this out again. We'll just see if, again, this whole thing is experimental. So we'll just see if it works out the way I think it will. Operative word being think. This is just going to go on the mask portion. I'm going to get both real quick here. Now I'm going to take Uniform Gray, and this is going to get used twice. And this is also almost empty. And we'll see if that's enough. So first off, using just enough water to thin the paint, keeping the brush moist but not overly wet. Doing a standard base coat on the stonework here. And I'm going to hit the other one real quick too. And this is just a layer of sculpting putty put into the recess in the base with a pattern carved in while it's still wet, with the model glued on after the putty dries. Works better for models that don't have a tab slot system that just glue directly onto the base. That does for not. And you might hear online to use Vaseline or a similar product to keep the putty off your tools, but I find that does not work at all. So now that that's done, I'm going to thin this uniform gray out with 1 part water to 1 part paint and use that to do the last coat on the Onryo themselves. But back to the sculpting thing. Using a petroleum jelly product to keep the putty off your tools, it also kind of infects, for lack of a better word, or yeah, I suppose infect is pretty good, the putty, and can actually stop your model from sticking to it, causing it to snap off pretty much randomly. So just keeping your sculpting tools really wet will keep the putty off of them, and that won't do weird stuff to your putty. If you see in some of my earlier videos where a model just plain pops off the base while I'm painting, it's because of that. So there's plenty of, how do I put this? There's very little constructive advice. You can find a lot of bad advice very easily. But practice and learn things on your own is advisable. That's not bad. Alright, there's a little more to do, including shading that stonework, so I'm going to let that dry completely and then move on. Oh boy, and I dropped about 300 frames in the blink of an eye. Holy cow. Well, this has quickly turned into one of those videos, so I'll let this dry and come back when it does. Okay, some of that light gray is still wet, but it's dry enough to move on. I'm going to take pure black 09037 and fill in the eyes real quick. Using a tiny detail brush where is a good one. There is no good angle on this. So I can either screw up the cinematography or I can screw up the paint job. And I seem to have hit a wet spot on that next. Alright. Just. Okay. I learned a new technique for cleaning brushes the other day. Stormy Gray 09088. I learned the other day a new way of cleaning brushes. If you run them on the inside of the rim under the water, that helps clean them out without messing up the shape of a brush head too much. Helping your brushes to last longer. Those things I didn't even think about. So I'm thinning out the Stormy Gray into a wash. And just going over the base here. making sure that gets into the cracks and crevices. Apply to the other one and let that all completely dry, then I can move on and kind of wrap up here. Okay, time to highlight. Let's do, all right, Emerald Green 09103. I'm hoping this will give something a look that's semi-reminiscent of Ghostbusters. We'll just see. This is an experiment, as much as anything else. Lost Love, that metallic white highlight turned out okay. So we'll just see what I get this time. Ragged feathered brush, straight paint, no water. I'm just going to do them both real quick here. Just because. I'm refreshing from the paint as needed, and you can go directly from your paper towel. And this is a fairly simplistic way of doing it, but there's a certain difficulty trying to do spectral entities on solid colored plastics like this. Now, there are some translucent plastic minis out there. They're kind of rare. Reaper Masters, or not Master, Reaper Bones has a few. I haven't really tried any of those yet. I'm sure I'll get some of those to play with eventually. And per my usual, my focus is on the readily visible surfaces for this. Oh boy, that happened. Not a firm enough grip and too much force on my brush there. Alright. Didn't turn out too badly. And Misty Gray, where is it? 09090. And highlight the stone. Just a quickie here. Now, originally I was going to do the eyes in the same glowing green, but changed my mind and did it pure black at the last minute, which I think that actually worked out for the better. Okay. Now, pure black 09037. I'm hearing bad noises coming from my computer, but dropped a few frames there. Criminy. Cool here? Kind of, maybe. Joys of technical difficulties strike again. Flathead brush, I'm just going to get this over with. Flathead brush. Just lining the edge of the base there. Keeping the brush moist but not overly wet. using just enough water to thin the paint. And apply that to the other one, and there'll be one more step to do before I can call it done, so back in a minute. Okay, final step, matte white. Just going to number the back of the base. So, this is a reasonable success. Not perfect, but reasonable. So, using just enough water to thin the paint, I'm just going to put a quick Roman numeral on the back of each model here. Number 1. We'll skew, that's fine, I don't care that much. This is more for my own reference. And number 2, and that way in a game, all I have to do is write that number on the reference card over its protective sleeve I always put them in, and can quickly and easily and clearly, that's important, tell which model has taken how much damage, etc. So, that is it, the Onryo from the Resurrectionists faction. I'm continuing on with more models associated with Kirai and Koku. Until next time, I am Ian Stuckey with Mastermind Games, signing out.